Imagine this scene. Washington, D.C. A lone Canadian member of parliament walks into a meeting with American officials. He's not a minister. He's not a diplomat. He hasn't been sent by the prime minister. But he sits down and tells them, "I'm here to help." Conservative MP Jamil Giovanni recently made that trip. He claimed he was there to help Prime Minister Mark Carney be successful in negotiations.
I'm going to Washington because I want to help Prime Minister Mark Carney be successful.
It sounds noble, doesn't it? It sounds like patriotism. It sounds like putting country before party. But back in Ottawa, the reaction wasn't gratitude. It was ice cold. Minister Melanie Joly didn't just dismiss the trip, she dismantled it. Mark Carney shut it down, not with anger, but with a kind of business-like coldness that we rarely see in domestic politics. Why? Why would a government turn down help? Because in the world of high-stakes diplomacy, especially with an administration like Donald Trump's, this isn't help, it's a breach. Now, before we go further, let's be clear about one thing. This analysis focuses on diplomatic protocol and national security, not partisan politics. We don't care about the jersey color. We care about the leverage. Here's the reality nobody talks about. There is a reason why embassies have walls and protocols. In high-stakes geopolitics, when you step outside of that channel, you aren't a hero. You are a liability. And Donald Trump knows exactly how to exploit liabilities. Today, we're going to look at why Ottawa reacted the way it did, and why this incident isn't just a political stunt. It's a warning sign for the next 4 years. To understand why a single MP's trip matters, you have to look at the board from the other side. You have to look at it through Donald Trump's eyes. We know Trump's rhetoric. We've heard the line about the 51st state. Based on observed patterns from his first term and current rhetoric, this isn't just noise, it's a strategy. When Trump says, and this is a direct quote, "You get rid of that artificially drawn line. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. It would be a great state." He isn't joking. He's probing. He's testing the structural integrity of his neighbor. Analysts call this sovereignty blurring. The goal isn't necessarily to annex Canada tomorrow. The goal is to make the border feel optional, to make the Canadian government feel like just one of many voices he can negotiate with. This isn't new. This pressure has existed for 2 centuries. But Trump weaponizes it differently. He weaponizes it by erasing the distinction between domestic U.S. politics and Canadian sovereignty. And this is where the freelance diplomacy of Jamil Giovanni becomes dangerous. It's not about what Giovanni said in those meetings. It's the fact that the meeting happened at all without Ottawa's oversight. Think about the mechanism here. Trump operates on a strategy of divide et impera, divide and conquer. He looks for cracks. He looks for fragmentation. If he can get a premier to cut a side deal on energy, look at the threat of tariffs on Canadian-made aircraft. This targets our highest value manufacturing. It creates uncertainty in Montreal and Toronto. Look at the pressure on F-35 procurement. Trump creates chaos first. He creates the threat. Then he waits to see if we panic. There's a framework for this. Washington analysts call it TACO. Trump always chickens out. But there's a catch. He only retreats. He only chickens out if he hits a brick wall, if he hits a sponge, if he hits a fragmented mess of competing voices. He doesn't retreat. He advances. So when Giovanni goes to Washington, he isn't adding a brick to the wall. He's showing Trump that the mortar is crumbling. So how did Ottawa respond? They didn't engage in a shouting match about who loves Canada more. That's a losing game. Instead, Minister Melanie Joly did something very specific. She pivoted to the data. She pivoted to the domestic reality. She pointed to one specific location, the GM plant in Ingersoll. According to Minister Joly, that plant had been idle for 4 months. Think about what that looks like. Empty parking lots, silent machinery, loading docks with nothing moving. Hundreds of people, Constituents that Giovanni's party claims to represent were losing their jobs. They were facing real economic uncertainty. They were looking for answers about their mortgages and their grocery bills. And while that was happening, Giovanni was in Washington. He was taking photos. He was building his personal brand on the international stage. This was a calculated counterattack by Joly. It stripped away the patriotic veneer of the trip. It revealed it for what it likely was, a media stunt. It highlighted a massive dereliction of duty. While a Canadian MP was busy taking photos in D.C., the lights were out at GM Ingersoll. Hundreds of families were waiting for answers. That contrast matters, because real patriotism isn't about foreign validation. It's about domestic protection. This is the difference between political tourism and statecraft. Statecraft is boring. It's grinding. It's dealing with certification issues for aircraft parts so that tariffs don't hit. It's working the phones to get an assembly line in Ingersoll moving again. It is unglamorous work. Political tourism is flashy. It gets you headlines. It gets you a segment on cable news. But it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it makes the problem harder to solve, because it confuses our allies and our adversaries about who is actually speaking for Canada. This brings us to the core of the Carney Doctrine. Under Prime Minister Carney, the rule is absolute: one voice. This isn't about control for the sake of control. It's about leverage. And leverage is the only thing that matters in this relationship. Canada is a small economy living next to a giant. Our only leverage is our ability to act as a single, unified entity. Think of it like buying in bulk. When we act as a block of 40 million people, we have negotiating power. We have weight. But if we fracture, if we break into individual provinces or individual MPs or individual interest groups, we lose that weight. If the U.S. administration knows they have to go through the Prime Minister's office to get what they want, the PMO has power. But if they think they can go around the PMO, if they think they can talk to Giovanni or a premier or a business lobbyist and get a better deal, the PMO's leverage evaporates. The price of admission to the Canadian market drops to zero. That is why Carney and Joly were so ruthless in shutting this down. They weren't just slapping Giovanni on the wrist. They were sending a signal to Washington. The door is here. Stop looking for a window. It's a doctrine of discipline. And frankly, it's the only way a country like Canada survives a America First agenda. You don't survive by being nice. You don't survive by being helpful in unauthorized meetings. You survive by being impenetrable. We are entering one of the most volatile periods in our history. The pressure from the South is going to increase. The rhetoric about the 51st state, the tariffs, the challenges to our sovereignty, it's all going to ramp up. Trump will keep pushing until he feels resistance. In that environment, we are going to see more people like Jamil Giovanni. We're going to see more politicians who think they can be the exception, who think they can freelance their way into relevance. And every time they do, they will call it patriotism. But look at the results. Look at Ingersoll. Look at the confusion it causes. Unity isn't free. It requires suppressing the ego. In the next 4 years, as the pressure mounts, discipline will be the only currency that buys us safety. Don't mistake noise for diplomacy. Ottawa held the line this time. The question is whether Canadians will reward that discipline or if we'll let the noise distract us. Because if we break ranks, the wall comes down, and Trump won't hesitate to walk right over it. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes open.